Welcome to our discussion on one of the cornerstone international labor instruments, the 1948 Freedom of Association and Protection of the Right to Organize Convention. It's, a text that has truly shaped labor rights globally.
Right, it's incredibly influential in shaping both workers' and employers' rights.
Exactly. So, at its heart, the convention lays the foundation for what we now take for granted: the absolute right for every worker and employer to form and join organizations freely without needing prior approval.
Yes. And not only does it emphasize joining organizations, but it also details how these groups should be allowed to draft their constitutions and manage their internal affairs, right?
Absolutely, and that's laid out in Article 3, which ensures that both workers and employers' organizations can elect representatives and set up programs in full freedom.
hmm So it's not just about being members, it's about having the freedom to self govern and really shape their own future.
Precisely. What's neat is that the convention also prevents any public authority from interfering with these organizations. Article 4 is very clear on this. It prohibits administrative dissolution, ensuring that organizations remain intact unless they choose otherwise.
Right. That kind of protection seems essential for maintaining an independent voice on the labor front. But I wonder, don't some argue that in certain countries, state intervention still creeps in despite these guarantees?
That's a valid point. While the convention lays out these robust protections, the interpretation and enforcement can vary, especially where political pressures exist. Yet, the text itself remains a powerful benchmark, encouraging nations to uphold
Yeah.
minimum standards.
And I also noticed that the convention explicitly grants the right for organizations to join federations and confederations. This means that there's a public recognition of the benefit in, larger collective voices.
Right, you are. Article 5 ensures that individual groupings can connect and form larger bodies, which helps amplify voices internationally. It's like building layers of representation.
Exactly. And that interconnectedness is crucial when you consider the global, cross-border nature of many labor issues.
Yeah, and the convention goes further to ensure that these rights extend to the federations themselves, as clarified in Article 6. It's very holistic.
Mhm. Now, another interesting aspect is that the convention also addresses the concept of legal personality for these organizations, making sure that acquiring such status isn't burdened by restrictive conditions.
Absolutely. And that's highlighted in Article 7. The idea is that your ability to be legally recognized shouldn't come at the cost of those essential freedoms. It's like removing hurdles in a race that's meant to empower workers and employers alike.
Right. Speaking of hurdles, Article 8 reiterates that all these rights must be exercised within the boundaries of the local law, but also ensures that the law itself shouldn't be applied in a way that impairs these guarantees.
Exactly, that delicate balance is critical. It respects the need for national legal orders while safeguarding the core rights established by the convention.
hmm Now, what about Article 9, which touches on the armed forces and police? That always seemed a bit nuanced to me.
Good question. Article 9, in its two paragraphs, acknowledges that the extent of these freedoms for armed forces or police is determined by national laws. It even clarifies that the ratification of the convention doesn't override existing arrangements for these groups.
Exactly. So it's essentially saying that even though the convention champions freedom of association, there are practical limitations for security forces based on a country's laws.
Correct. It's a recognition of the different roles and special regulations that might apply to them. Moving on, Part 2 of the convention shifts focus entirely to the protection of the right to organize.
And that's a big deal because it obligates each member to take all necessary measures to ensure that not only is the freedom recognized, but it's also effectively implemented, right?
Yeah. Yes, Article 11 makes it clear. It's not just a theoretical right, but one that must be actively protected through national measures.
hmm It's interesting how the convention anticipates these issues long ago, but I wonder, do you think the emphasis on self-regulation might sometimes overlook the need for external oversight?
That's something worth exploring. The convention definitely emphasizes self-governance, but later provisions imply a framework for international supervision and reporting, ensuring transparency.
Right. And then we get to part 3 and part 4, which deal with the administrative and procedural aspects, like how ratifications work, denunciations, and the timelines for the convention coming into force.
Yes, those sections are key for its implementation. For example, Article 15 details that the convention only becomes binding on members after their ratification is registered, and it comes into force 12 months after 2 members have ratified.
That structured approach ensures there's a clear timeline for adoption, which must have been critical for heightening the convention's global reach.
Precisely. And then Article 16 introduces an interesting feature. Members can denounce the convention after 10 years, with a subsequent binding period if they choose not to denounce. It's like a renewal cycle built into international agreements.
Yes, exactly. So it encourages continuous commitment to these labor standards while still allowing for, some flexibility over time.
Exactly. This periodic review guarantees that member states cannot simply ignore these commitments without, facing international scrutiny.
Right. And then Article 17 and Article 18 further standardize the process by requiring clear communication and registration of ratifications, declarations, and denunciations. This seems super administrative, but is actually essential for maintaining a structured international labor framework.
Exactly. The transparency mandated through these articles ensures that all stakeholders are aware of each country's position and modifications, which upholds the core principle, freedom of association across borders.
There's also that element in Part 4 about reporting, with Article 19, where the governing body is expected to periodically review the convention's effectiveness. That adds a layer of accountability to the whole system.
Yes, it's like an ongoing health check for international labor rights. The convention not only sets the standards, but it also builds in the mechanism for its own revision if needed, which is forward-thinking.
Yes. And then, Article 20 even specifies that if a new revising convention comes into force, then ratification of that automatically denounces the old version, unless a member decides not to ratify the new one. That seems to be a clever way to manage evolution in labor standards over time.
Absolutely. It's a neat legal switch ensuring that updates in international norms are smoothly integrated. And finally, Article 21 confirms that both the English and French texts are equally authoritative, a reminder of the convention's heritage and international character.
When you look at it all together, the greater strength of this convention lies in its comprehensive approach. It covers rights, administrative procedures, and the mechanics of implementation.
Yes, and it's fascinating how a document from 1948 continues to influence labor standards nearly 3/4 of a century later.
Exactly. It not only provided a legal groundwork, but also a moral framework for recognizing the inherent dignity of workers and employers across the globe.
Right. And while some might critique that the text doesn't address every modern labor challenge, as our economies and work environments have evolved, it still remains a vital reference for international law.
Yeah, it's true, though I'd say that any critique is more about applying an older framework to a contemporary context rather than diminishing its foundational value.
Exactly, and that's why continuous reporting and periodic reviews are so important. They help ensure that the convention remains relevant even as labor markets transform.
It's like having a time-tested recipe that gets a little tweak every now and then to suit new tastes and ingredients.
Perfect analogy. So overall, the freedom of association and protection of the right to organize convention not only sets a historic precedent, but also lays the groundwork for continual improvement in labor rights internationally.
Absolutely.